Are air guns lethal? Can they be used for hunting? Can they be used for self-defense? Those questions and a lot more I'll be answering in this video. Guys, welcome to the channel, and as always, if you want to get prepared, you have the channel with a ton of information already uploaded. Simply use the search function. Your questions, comments, suggestions for more videos, more than welcomed in the comments there below. Also in the links there below, you will have my books, Surviving the Economic Collapse, Street Survival Skills. Those two combined will help you get a lot better prepared for the times in which we're already living in and the ones to come. So, answering these questions super quickly, can they be lethal? Absolutely yes. Air guns can be lethal. It will depend specifically on which one you're looking at, but even some of the lower power ones, like this 3-joule Glock air gun, with 3 joules, it's barely gonna penetrate skin, but there's been incidents where people have been killed because of that. It will depend on the size of the person. Often it's children that are handling air guns as if they're toys. So it can be lethal anytime you're shooting one of these little balls. Don't assume that, oh, it's perfectly fine. Oh, I play with my cousins. We shoot at each other. Oh, and once I got this under the skin. Well, keep in mind, not all bodies are the same. Not everyone has the same body type. Children, very small, are very vulnerable to these sort of things because they don't have the skin, the fat, the muscle to stop these things nearly as much. So even if it's just losing an eye, no, be extremely careful. Now, are there air guns that are very lethal? Absolutely. There's models that are extremely powerful, big bore air guns that are used for big game hunting. Those are quite rare. They do exist. They're very expensive, and usually you're getting into that terrain of why are you not using an actual firearm instead, if that's the amount of power that you want. But that's not here nor there, but you do have those. You only have to keep in mind that every time you're handling an air gun or a real firearm, keep in mind that it can be lethal. Some of them will be more lethal than others, but that's something you still have to consider. Now, can they be used for hunting? Well, absolutely yes. It's going to depend on which model. Some of these can be enough to kill some very small critters, like the Glock air pistol I was showing before. But then there you have bigger air guns, big bore ones that are even capable of going after large game. But even the more affordable ones, the more typical break action 4.5mm or 5.5mm air guns, even those, the good models, have a decent amount of power and they can be more than okay for small game hunting. Keep in mind, there's a difference between enough power to kill a small critter or pest, which would be the terrain of this thing, barely enough for doing that, and then there's proper small game hunting. You're looking at something that has enough power to humanely dispatch a small animal. That's what I'm talking about in terms of small game hunting. Not barely enough to kill a rat, no. Just something that's a lot more serious, and these air guns do have that. That's a PCP air gun, and it definitely has the power. How much power? Well, it's going to be pushing one of these pellets at 850 meters per second or more. So 850 meters per second, that's kind of like what you expect from a 22 short, which is definitely enough to kill an animal, right? So yeah, it is very powerful. You can even adjust a little bit of that power by how much pressure you put it when, and it has a manual pump there. So you can use a manual pump, which takes a little bit more time and muscle, or you can just use a tank and put pressure in the thing. It has either single shot or multi-shot capability, so it's an interesting choice. Extremely accurate, it's crazy, ridiculous accurate, and more than enough accuracy for those small game hunting tasks. And I think that there's a little bit of that thing, of that element in survival and preparedness of, oh, I'll be using my air gun for small game hunting and dispatching game and surviving by what I hunt. Okay, I think you're getting a little bit into the terrain of fantasy stuff, but hey, if you want to go small game hunting and eat whatever you hunt, you most definitely can do it with something like that, or something quite clearly cheaper, like those break action 22 air guns. Some of them are very powerful and will do a decent enough job, even if it's not a PCP air gun. Okay, I like that model. This is an Aspen Seneca that is very nice. Is it something that can be used for self-defense? And this is where it gets very controversial. I will say that no. Most of these things are not designed for self-defense, even though they can be lethal, especially the more powerful ones. Oh, but I can scare someone with this. We've talked about this before. You can scare someone with a stick or with a Nerf, right? You can have a you can have a toy that looks like a gun and scare someone, but that's not going to be safe in terms of using it for self-defense. As dangerous as all self-defense situations are, at least you have something that actually works as intended, right? This will not be, a toy will not stop an actual aggression if you're not scaring that person away. You have no other choice? Okay, you have nothing and you aim that thing at someone? Well, yeah, I guess it could work. I guess someone would be pretty scared if you aim at them with a giant ass monster of a, I mean, compare this thing even to my AR. This is a pretty large air gun, right? So yeah, I guess it can be quite intimidating if you look at it that way, but it will not have the stopping power to immediately end a threat to your life, especially if that person is armed. Now, there are some air guns marketed by different companies as self-defense air guns, and they shoot either like a bigger rubber ball or some of the, I think that is extremely irresponsible. I don't care what company does that. At least the way I see it, they lose all possible credit and decency when doing that sort of thing. No, firing a little plastic ball at someone will not end a threat. Can it be that someone gets scared just by the look of it? Someone got scared by the blast of the air. They are quite loud. That thing is super loud. I mean, it's shooting like subsonics from a long barrel in an actual carbine in 22 is probably less loud than this thing. This is quite loud. So it can be quite intimidating. Maybe for someone that is not even used to it, they may be confusing it with a real firearm, and that can be very intimidating and effective at turning someone away. But that does not mean that I would suggest going with this tactic for actual self-defense. And no matter where you live, you probably have access to an actual firearm, and that's what you should be going for, not an air gun. All right. So I basically think I cover most of these things. These are quite nice. PCP, they tend to be a little bit more complex and definitely heavier. And if you want something super simple, those break actions, I'll leave some of the options, if they're still available in Amazon, I'll leave some that I like in the description below, in the links below in the description of the video. Some of those break action guns that are quite nice. Probably need to get one of those myself. I don't do a lot of air gun shooting. I do like this one because it's very nice, very accurate. I like that you can pump and you have like the way of telling, right, how much pressure you have in this thing, which is very cool. So you can know how much pressure you're putting on it, and once you get the hang of it, you know what to expect. And there's a point in which if it's too much power that you're putting on it, you start losing a little bit of accuracy. Anyway, it's cool. It's fun and entertaining, and there's an entire art on the thing on how to get it exactly the way you want and combining it with a perfect pellet so as to get the maximum accuracy out of it. But those are the options that you have, and that's the way these things go, okay? Just trying to keep it honest for you to make a smart decision for you and whatever it is that you have in mind. If it's going to be using it for hunting, if it's going to be using for self-defense, if it's just for plinking, you always have options. Just be honest about what the capabilities are of each of these tools. Guys, that's going to be all for now. See you on the next video. Take care.